There is a setup menu on the Bernina 560, which really helps you customize the way this machine works. Anything done in the setup menu is going to be permanent unless you change it. So you turn the machine off and turn it back on, and those settings will stay the same. Here are also some basic things that you can adjust without needing to take it into your service center if you have any trouble. But let me just go through each of the items that are on this particular screen. Starting with the first one. This is screen brightness, and you can actually make it not so bright or as bright as it can be based on where you're sewing. If you had a window nearby and it's glaring on here, you can actually maybe make this adjust so it really works for you. And you can adjust what the welcome screen actually says. So if you wanted to say, "Welcome Sarah, let's have fun sewing," you can type that in. I'll just leave that the way it is for now. The next thing is you can actually adjust the coloring of your screen and have some fun with that. I'll leave it at our normal blue color. I told you you could set up the way you like this. Next, these are some screens that we're going to go through, each one dealing with something different. On the first screen, it's the maximum speed of this machine, which is 1,000 stitches, let's say RPMs here. The next one is the tension. Now this is a global tension, so if you change it here, on every single stitch, the tension will be increased by 0.5 of an amount, okay? If for any reason you need it to be less, then you can adjust that. So everything can be taken higher or lower based on the thread you're using. So you don't have to change it every time you pick a new stitch. This can kind of globally change everybody. Let's go to page 2 here. Now this one is the setup for this button here, which is pattern end. When you do pattern end, do you want it to lock as well once it ends the pattern? You can have it lock in kind of a cluster, and you can also have it lock in some straight stitches, which you can adjust to be more or less. It recommends or starts off at 4. So if I don't want it, I just need to make sure that yellow is not around that particular box. You can also have it set, so when you touch the button and it finishes the stitch, that it also cuts it for you. So if you're sewing out rows of decorative stitches, which we highly recommend since you are going to want to know every stitch that's in this machine, this would be a great thing to do, because then at the end you don't have to keep hitting your scissor button to cut the thread and take it out. Why not have it preset for you? I'm going to leave that off for right now, but that is a great option to actually use. The next is when you do touch the scissor button, would you also like it to lock? That is also an option you can add, once again with kind of a in the same hole type locking stitch, or with straight stitches going very small in the forward direction. So your choice. All right, let's come back out of here. The next is with our embroidery section, being able to set the different things. So automatic thread cut after every color change is currently on. And then also thread cut after starting the embroidery. And then how many, let's see, this is securing stitches and getting those activated. You also have an option to get your hoop. I would need to put my embroidery module on here, but we can get that hoop to actually calibrate in this area. All right, next, this would be an area, if you've ever had a place where you're touching a screen area, like I'm touching this, and the next stitch or function to the right or left is choosing instead of the one you're touching, it just means that your screen calibration is off. And this is one thing I do love, that we get to change or set should we need to do so. And I'm going to actually walk you through how this works. Screen calibration means that it's going to come up and it's going to ask you to touch in the middle of that X. Now I need to really kind of make sure I get right in the middle. As I go around, it's going to do a couple points, and then now your screens will kind of be readjusted. So it's kind of like if you had them slightly shifted, now they're going to be right on top of each other. What you see is what you're going to be touching. Next is the beeping. You might be able to hear a few things as we've been going around our screen, that as I touch certain things, they are making a sound. Now I could turn that completely off, and now when I touch things, you don't hear any of it. If I touch a straight stitch, I could have it be a beep. There's different kinds of beeps, so you can pick which one you want, or just turn it off altogether, leaving some on as you choose. Sometimes it's nice to have 2 different beeps for if you're picking straight stitches versus if you're picking function buttons. And then this is also for the stitch regulator. If you have purchased that option, that will actually indicate with a beep when you go too fast, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to leave my functions on, but my stitches off, and we'll just leave it at that. That's how I kind of have it preset. The other thing is for the where it will tell you whether your thread is out in the needle thread. So if you ever break a thread, this will indicate there is a sensor kind of in the take up lever area that will activate. Now, if for any reason you are sewing along and you get an activation like, hey, your thread is broken, and it's really not, that could be something where there's a little spring out of place, or maybe it's just time to get your machine cleaned and the dirt is in there and the lint and it's affecting the sensor. Come in here and turn that actually off. And then that way it will stop repeating itself, even though you're like, it's fine, just sew. Turn it off. Same thing for the bobbin. If for any reason you have trouble with your bobbin, the sensor's going off when you really do have a full bobbin, you can turn that off and it will stop alerting you all the time and allow you to continue sewing until you can get it into your service center. All right, let's hear. Did I leave those on? Yes, I like those on. All right, next is your bobbin winding speed. So you can increase or decrease how fast the bobbin is wound. Updates, this is something that you can actually do and get the update from Bernina's website, or we can actually do it when machines come in. We tend to update and make sure you have the most current version of the software for the machine. But if there's a new version come out and you've been notified that that is there, this will walk you through how to update your machine. On the buttonhole foot, number 3A, on occasion, it needs some calibration. And this we'll actually do a video on this so you can actually get it calibrated if it's out of calibration. And again, not have to bring it into your service center to do that. This would be something where you want to just reset all the settings that in this setup area you might have changed, and you kind of go, gosh, I don't know what I've changed. I just want it back to the way it came from the factory, kind of default back to those factory settings. You can go ahead and reset that. And this is where we can have our choice of languages and also see what our latest version is, total number of stitches since last maintenance, yes. Who is my dealer, if they've put that information in. And that would kind of just be the basic information of the machine. So that is a quick walkthrough with the settings. There will be things throughout these videos that I'm going to come in here and set it for different things. And then sometimes I might go back and turn them off if I'm doing different sewing techniques that don't require those on. Probably the biggest thing would be where we had the settings for like the different function buttons, how I want those to actually operate. Those are great ways to get things to perform the way you like them to be performed. So check out the settings. Do go in here often so you can kind of remember what's there and remember that what you can turn on, what you can turn off. So you can really get this to be the way you want it to be used when you're sewing.